Welcome to the North Carolina Integrative Medical Society Board Member Minute. Our goal with this interview is to help you to learn more about your NCIMS board members. For those who do not know, NCIMS is a nonprofit organization that supports integrative and functional medicine practitioners to share knowledge, collaboration, best practices, with the ultimate goal to better the health of our communities. So my name is Bethany Sprague. I am also a North Carolina Integrative Medical Society board member, and I would like to introduce you to Dr. Thomas-Montilus. Welcome, Sandy.
Thank you, Bethany.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited to share that Dr. Montilus is our new NCIMS board president. Sandy, how long have you been a part of NCIMS?
I joined the NCIMS in 2016, and so that's when I was introduced to the NCIMS. I didn't even know the NCIMS existed until 2016, when a colleague told me about it, and I attended one of the conferences.
Fantastic. What made you decide to become a member?
Because it was more in keeping with the way I think of the approach to health. Mm-hmm. Because that fit my own experience and the way I looked at attaining health and well-being for myself. So it gelled with me. So I said, okay, well, here's a whole bunch of people that think kind of similarly to how I think. So maybe I can learn more, by interaction and association.
Great. So Sandy, I know you're in the eastern part of the state. Tell me a little bit about your practice.
Yes, I moved from New York to North Carolina in 1997, and I'm an internist, and I came here to practice internal medicine. And I'm in Lumberton, which is in Robeson County, which is one of the poorest counties in the state. So there's a lot of chronic pathology here that was right up my alley to serve people in the specialty that I was trained to serve in. And so that's what I've done most of my life, is just classic internal medicine. And thankfully have had good success with the approach that I've taken with my patients in improving numbers, improving outcomes, etc. And but as I went along, I realized that fixing people's illnesses is more than medicating them and hopefully getting them on the right track. It's also education. It's also understanding that there's more to fixing illness than just taking medication. Mm-hmm. So, I didn't want to grow old and have a bag of medications for myself. I'm 55 and thankfully don't take any medications, but I didn't want to, end up in somebody else's office with a bag of 20 pills in my purse, So I thought there was a better way to do this, and then I learned about integrative medicine. When I was going through medical school, integrative medicine was not even a concept that I heard of. So, right. It's been a journey for me.
Definitely. I understand the journey. So can you tell me a little bit about your practice, purpose, mission, what kind of people do you serve, and what do they seek you out for?
Yeah. So I actually serve a large swath of people. I treat people for acute and chronic illness. That's my internal medicine way of life. I also treat addiction. So patients with addiction. I treat patients with chronic pain. I also treat patients with bioidentical hormone replacement. I do platelet-rich plasma procedures for various things, including joint regeneration, shoulders, knees, that kind of thing, hair loss, sexual enhancement, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a practice that's wider than most people's internal medicine practices. But internal medicine is my training, and it is how I approach everybody from the principles that I have been trained on. Yeah.
Excellent. Great. Well, I'd love to switch kind of directions and get to know you, Sandy, as a person. And what are some of your favorite ways to spend a day off, a vacation day, just your favorite way to spend life outside of work?
Sure. I love travel. And unfortunately, with the pandemic, that was severely curtailed. I used to travel quite extensively simply because I have no family in this country. And so my closest family is in Canada, in Ottawa. And so, and when my mother was alive and she passed away in 2020, I used to go to Canada quite often, but I've traveled extensively around the world as well. And I think the only continent I haven't been to, well, the two continents I haven't been to is South America and Australia, but I've been everywhere else.
Oh, that's great. That's super interesting. So I know you're obviously a physician, very passionate about the work that you do, but have you ever had a job that would surprise us, or in the past that was interesting?
I hate to tell you, no, but it is. My whole mission in life, ever since I was 6 years old, was to become a physician. And so everything I've done as far as jobs are, I always work for myself for the most part. Now I work for other organizations as well. And so, medicine has kept my life very interesting, because you learn every day. You see diseases every day that are present in ways that you never saw them present before. So those things excite me and just keep my internal medicine skills sharp. But I've also been in leadership positions prior to becoming the president of the North Carolina Integrative Medical Society. I was the first non-Black president of the oldest Black medical society in the country. And so that was a huge honor to be even considered for that position, because obviously I'm not African American. And so that gave me an insight into, approaching medicine from a culturally sensitive, culturally appropriate in manner, so that you can interact with people in a way that's familiar to them.
Right. And it feels safe for them, right? If you
Yes.
have that competence, it feels safe for them, and allowing that connection.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. And I'd been a member of the society since 1997, since the year I actually came into North Carolina. But I was involved in the board for 15 years of those years. And so then I eventually became president. So it was a huge honor, very humbling. I was able to affect policy at the state level, working with the governor's office, working with the medical board. And, and that has been something I've really wanted to do, even with our society, is to help shape policy so that, we can affect the lives of more people in a positive way.
Great. Yeah. And I know you brought that up, and I think that's an important thing to add. What is your vision moving forward for the NCIMS?
Right. So inclusivity, I don't want us to be considered a fringe society. Integrative medicine, thankfully, has become more mainstream, more accepted in the larger realm of medicine. And so I think that would be something I would strive to make sure that people understand. We are another specialty society. We're not some fringe cuckoo society that, doesn't practice medicine. We practice medicine every day. Our practitioners practice medicine every day, following principles of medicine, and so that's one. And then the other aspect of it is policy shaping, making sure that we are part of the group that affects change, be at the table, so to speak. I think that's important to do as a society and a state society.
Yep, definitely. If not ever before, now is definitely the right time. So,
Yes.
I mean, obviously you are very well educated. I'm sure definitely a bookworm as well. I'm curious, do you have any books that have greatly influenced your life or your practice?
Well, yes, I'm eclectic in the way I'm put together. So I'm a literature and history buff. I love classic English literature. I like 19th century history, but I actually like history just in its most broad form. So, I read in medicine, but I also read in those subjects as well. And the best book I read last year was a book by I wrote her name down because I always can't remember her name, Anna Lemke, and she's a physician, and she wrote about the title of the book is called The Dopamine Nation. And it was about finding balance in the age of indulgence. And the pandemic pushed people into because we were more contained, more at home, and people ended up children and young adults with more gaming, more spending, shopping. That was everybody across the board. QVC, I think, was very popular in the first days of the pandemic, and so shopping, gaming, gambling, sexting, whatever that gets people, that they get their jollies out of, alcoholism, all these things. And she approached it from that angle, and how do we fix some of that? So that was a fascinating book. But the book I read on a daily basis is scripture. I'm deeply spiritual, and I'm raised Catholic, and I read scripture every day, and it's been a source of solace for me in times of so in dark times, in times of grief and loss and all these other times that affect all of us, scripture is very uplifting to me. So, and I'm a student of theology as well. So you asked what I like to read. So I actually read a lot of comparative theology. That was my minor in undergraduate. And so, I find we have more in common than we have things apart, when we look at other world religions. So.
Yep, I definitely agree. That's interesting. I'm curious, you brought up an investment in spending money, but I'm curious, what is one of the best or most worthwhile investments that you've ever made for yourself?
Yes, as far as my health is concerned, discovering bioidentical hormone replacement. I was patient number one after I got trained, and because I was having all the typical issues that middle-aged perimenopausal women go through, and I was already on things like birth control and stuff like that to regulate my cycle and etc., but it was not making me feel any better. I was still going through all the night sweats and hot flashes, etc. And then I learned about bioidentical hormones and the huge role of testosterone in women our age, and and then when I went and got trained, and I became my first patient because I got it placed in me, and I did pellet replacement, and in 48 hours I was a new woman. It was that dramatic a change. And I do quite a bit of hormone replacement, and I have never had to advertise one day in my life for it. Patients will seek me out before I call them, because they know how tremendously gratifying it is to have a sense of wellness in your spirit and in your body,
Definitely.
So that would have been my biggest discovery quite late in the game, really, in my 40s. I had already had 20 plus years of medicine at that point.
Yes, I think the best investment is to feel well, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many tools out there, but something as simple as bioidentical hormones is not simple. It's very complex, but can make a gigantic difference to our energy and our mindset and our mood. It's definitely extremely powerful.
Absolutely.
Curious, what do you do if you feel overwhelmed, stressed, out of focus? What tools do you use?
Well, when I feel stressed, and I rarely feel negative stress. I have a lot of positive stress, which it sounds, oxymoronish, but it's very rarely do I let stress bother me where it puts me down. But when it does, I pray. I become more thankful in my spirit, because we are, all of us, blessed beyond measure. And so, that is an uplifting thought, because, if you're negative on just one thing that's affecting you, then you forget all the good things that you have in your life. And so, you just have to recalibrate. Okay, this is just one thing, but look at all these other things you've got going on. So that's mood uplifting in and of itself. And so I tend to live life looking at the glass half full rather than half empty. And that's what really, that's who I am as a person. That's the essence of me,
And it's also a mindset as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
it is.
I'm curious, how do you design your life to be intentional and joyful? I mean, that takes effort.
Well, it does, but service is how I define my life. So I've always wanted to do medicine, and I wanted to do medicine because I wanted to serve people in that profession, and so I serve. So that's what gives me my purpose in life. And I see a vast range of people. I see people who are not educated, people who are, who need things broken down to them more. Then I also have people who have PhDs that come to me, or other of my physician colleagues. I serve in the prison population right now. I work 2 days a week in the prison, in the state prison. And so it's incredibly gratifying for me to work in the prison, because I am able to deal with people who have never had words of affirmation given to them, who've never had anybody tell them they could be anything better than bad. And allowing people to realize that even though they're there, they can still change their mindset. So it's been very, very, it's actually one of the best places I've ever worked in, to tell you the truth. I enjoy working in the prison. I know that sounds so weird, but I really do. It gives me so much of an opportunity to work on the mindset of people,
Right. And to really instill hope, because that
Yes.
is one of the most hopeless places, I'm assuming, to be in. So
yes, it is.
giving that little glimmer of hope can really make a difference to the day in and day
Right.
out of the situation.
Yes, and you realize that, the crime they committed did not happen the day that they committed the crime. It happened at their birth, because these bunches of these people were either thrown away at birth, physically abused, sexually abused. Such horrific stories of childhood trauma. And you would never think that, people could, when you think of the trauma they've been through, you realize, oh my goodness, no wonder this person is in prison. There's no other place he would have ended up in anyway, because it was so bad, his life, coming to that point. So that makes you even more thankful, because, why am I any different from anybody else in prison? It's because of the lottery of birth, right? We all happen to have been born in stable homes. You see, that's the only difference between them and us.
Yeah, it's amazing. So interesting. I'm curious, I know you offer a lot of service and that's a big part of your life. Do you have any hobbies or anything else that you like to do?
Yes. In addition to reading, I'm a classically trained pianist. I started playing the piano when I was 3 years old, and I took piano lessons until I went to medical school. I unfortunately don't play as much as I'd like to, and that's only because my schedule of work is quite long. But I do try to get in some piano playing, if you will, through the week, but not as much as I'd like to. That would be something that when I go down to a less busy schedule, that I would take up more of, But I like going on walks. I have a bad back and a bad neck. I've had neck surgery, so I can't do any sort of strenuous type of activity anymore. But going on walks has been a good thing for me, and so that's what I do when I'm not, when I'm trying to do things to make me feel better.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, if you had a billboard anywhere in the world, where would it be and what would it say?
A billboard, I don't know where it would be, but it would certainly say that I'm, the words it would have been blessed beyond measure. That would be how I'd want the world to see me as, that's who I am. I'm blessed beyond measure. I don't take anything I have for granted. Everything is given with a purpose, and you're blessed to be a blessing to others. So that's how I live my life.
I'm curious, practicing a physician, that's a huge part of your life. Do you have any other roles or responsibilities besides your practice?
Yes. I am a mother of one son. He's 23, he graduated college not too long ago. And his name is Matthew, and he's the joy of my life, in addition to the 2 dogs that I have. I have 3 children now, my son and 2 dogs. I'm a pup mom too. So, between the 3 of them, they keep me busy. And, I recently lost my husband, as you may know, in 2020 to COVID. And so that was a, pretty stressful time. So, I enjoyed my role as a wife. He was a physician too, and we had yesterday made 14 years that we would have been married, but of course he passed away 2 years ago, and I had the most wonderful experience as in our relationship. It just was a joyful one. We never fought. Not one day did we fight. We had a wonderful relationship. And so I miss that terribly, but we got to move on. We don't have a choice,
Well, that's certainly remarkable, Dr. Montilus. I mean, just your, not only just your really sense of grounding, but even finding joy past that tragedy, and finding joy of just being able to really know that you had those almost 12 years together, and the beauty that you guys created. So I just wanted to acknowledge, I see the pain, but just still the joy and perseverance through that.
Yes, thank you. Yes, yeah. He was a person who served too. He loved to serve people that in his role as a physician. So I was very, very fortunate that we both had the same ideology, and we could approach our lives the same way.
That's beautiful. I'm curious if there's anybody out there that is lives in your county and is really searching for a provider who has that sense of caring and the groundedness that you offer. Where should they go, and how should they learn more about you?
Well, you asked that, and normally I would say, I'm looking for more patients. But now, after my husband passed away, I didn't have the bandwidth to grow my practice. So my practice is very small, what I do personally for myself. And so what I do now is I work in other capacities. Like I told you, I work in the prison system 2 days a week.
Mhm.
I work with other clinics with addiction patients, et cetera, et cetera. So I've got these other responsibilities. So I'm actually not looking to grow my practice at this time. I think I've got as many patients as I can comfortably manage in the time that I have for that management.
Mhm.
So I'm really not looking to grow my practice at all. And it sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? Because I'm still an active practitioner, but it's just because I'm limited in the time that I can have in my own practice because of my other commitments. And I purposely designed this part of my life that way because I didn't want to deal with just practice issues and, you know, trying to find patients and managing staff. I just, after my mother and husband died 5 months of each other in 2020, and with the pandemic raging around us, it was just easier for me to put a halt to the growth of the practice and then just do other things, you know.
Right. Redesigning your life to be optimal for you. I mean, that's
Yes.
really what it is, right?
That's correct.
So thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing your story today. It was so powerful, and I'm sure other people needed to hear it as well. So I just want to thank you for your commitment to our organization. And for those who want to learn more about NCIMS, they can go to ncims.com. There we have events coming up, and that's a great way to connect with other like-minded practitioners. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time today, Bethany. Appreciate it.